That's a pretty good question. We made one video that changed the channel forever.
Would you recommend using rungum on a date? And how many pieces would be optimal for peak performance?
Because you may find yourself like too amped up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another interview. Today I speak with the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Symmonds. You may know him as two-time Olympian in the 800 meter or the CEO of the energy gum company Rungum. Today we talk less about his Olympic days, as you know, if you've been watching his YouTube channel, you know all about the story, and I didn't want to just ask him the same questions that everybody probably would ask him, and I really wanted to better understand what goes on behind the scenes of Rungum as well as his YouTube channel. So that is why the video is called The Hidden Side of Nick Symmonds. And before we get into this video, I really would like to ask you to please kindly subscribe. It really does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. I'll have more interviews coming, but I'll also be racing some track meets soon, and so I'll be documenting those as well. Inquiry of the episode, so go ahead and comment below. What is your pre-race ritual? As you know, Nick would want you to be chewing run gum before your race, but I would love to hear if you guys have any superstitions ahead of your race. I want to make this a little more interesting. If you count the number of times he claps or brings his hands together, maybe that's like this or like this, you know. If you count the number of times he does that, as well as the number of times he takes a sip of his LaCroix, I will send you a box of run gum. All you have to do to win this is to be subscribed, smash the like button on this video, and comment below. Be the first person to comment how many times he claps and how many times he takes a sip of his LaCroix. Alright, let's get into the video. Here is Nick Symmonds. So Nick Symmonds, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're busy, so I appreciate it. And
Hey, my pleasure, man.
And people often introduce you as a two-time Olympian, CEO of Rungum, and YouTuber. But is there something that you wish people knew about you or knew more about you that they don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that covers most of the bases. I think the funny thing is that that's what I do professionally, right? You know, I ran professionally and I own Rungum. That's my business, and I love YouTubing. But probably if it's me and I have a free day, I'm out fishing. Like, I am a fisherman at heart. If I could fish 7 days a week and get paid to do that, I probably would. But not a lot of people know that about me because I don't post a lot about it. But I fish literally religiously. Every single Saturday I'm out fishing.
And most people are familiar with you because of running. And you've said before that you did not enjoy running when you first began. And so I just want to talk about running for a little while, but at what point did you first begin to love running and what caused it?
Well, yeah, I started running because a girl I had a crush on in middle school asked me to go out for the cross country team. And to spend more time with her at co-ed practices, I went and ran around in circles with her. But I didn't love running. I didn't love running even though I was good at it in middle school. I didn't love running even though I was good at it in high school. I just kept running because I'm like, darn, I'm really good at this. I wonder how far I could take it. I would say I felt that way even through college. It really wasn't until I turned pro that I really gained an appreciation for it. And I think part of that is when I was a student, I liked my studies and I liked running, but they were always pulling me in opposite directions. Every time I was running, I felt like I should be studying. And every time I was studying, I felt like I should be running. And I knew that I could never be great at either endeavor. I wanted to be a doctor. I couldn't be a great doctor if I was running around all day long. And I couldn't dedicate myself to the sport if I had to sit in class all day. So it really wasn't until I turned pro and was able to devote all of my time and energy into my craft of running that I really started to appreciate it. And also around that time, all my buddies were getting jobs that they hated, and I was getting paid to work out. And I'm like, I love my job. So I think that helped a lot too.
And I think that's pretty relatable. Most high schoolers, they don't really enjoy running at first. They just like the team aspect. And so I think
Yeah.
there's probably about half of the kids on the cross country team that probably are running because they like the team aspect, and then half just because running. So I think that's really interesting what you said.
And that's
And
okay. You don't have to love the run to appreciate all the things that it does for you.
yeah, I completely agree. And in your book, Life Outside the Oval Office, which I own a copy of, I can't believe I forgot to put it on the shelf back here.
No worries.
But uh, I was rereading it in preparation for this interview, and you talked about how the last 2 or 3 years of your collegiate career at Willamette University, you had a coach that was kind of holding you back from your goals. Um, like for example, you said that training was too easy, and he'd get upset if you tried to work harder. But what was going on with this, and how did you overcome it? And then I'll ask another follow-up question.
Yeah, I think this coach was really inexperienced, and I don't think he really knew what he had on his hands. Or maybe he did know what he had on his hands and was so afraid to mess it up. At any rate, we just butted heads a lot, and I just saw him as an obstacle to where I wanted to be. And so I think, whenever somebody's really hell bent on getting where they want to go, they look to surround themselves with people that want to go in the same direction or want to help them get where they want to go. And the cool thing about athletics is that if you're an athlete that's determined to go somewhere, there is no lack of people and resources that want to help you get where you want to go. So as soon as I said, hey, I want to be a pro runner, like, Sam Lepre, my business partner, who was my conditioning coach at the time, he stepped up. Jimmy Bean stepped up. My folks stepped up. There were so many people in my corner that said, listen, maybe the head coach and you aren't getting along. We don't need him. We're going to get there anyways. And so I knew what I needed. Not every athlete is, as headstrong or as kind of, I'll say self-aware. I'm a self-aware now. I wasn't a self-aware 21-year-old, but I knew what I needed to be successful, and I knew I wasn't getting it.
So what advice would you have then for other runners and non-runners? Because this could be relatable for other sports as well. Like people who have coaches that were similar to your college coach that were holding you back from your goals.
I mean, it goes beyond sport even. Anyone who's holding you back from your goals that you recognize as being, counterproductive to where you want to go, you just got to cut them right out. It's not to say you have to cut them out of your life. If it's your parents, for example, you just have to keep them at arm's length and recognize that this is your life. It's not their life. It's not your coach's life. It's your life, and you create the path that you want to walk down. And you have to choose who you're going to walk down that path with. And again, there are many people going many different directions, and there are people that will help you down that path. So long as you're, I'll use this word again, headstrong enough to know which path you want to walk down. There was nobody that was going to derail me from where I wanted to go. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And that's the hardest part sometimes, especially for young men and women, is just figuring out which path you want to go down. I always say working hard isn't hard. It's really easy to work hard at something you love. Training 10 miles a day, people would say to you, you're crazy. How do you do that kind of work? And I'm like, it doesn't feel like work. It's something I want to do. I do it for free. But the hardest thing in the world is to find out what you're passionate about and then go all in on that. Most people just kind of float around. Oh, I'm kind of interested in this, or I'm kind of interested in that. If something bites you in the butt and you can't stop thinking about it, you're so obsessed with it, and it can be anything. You need to go all in and find out how great you can be because you've been blessed with something called passion, and not everybody is blessed with it.
Very well said. And you were a legendary runner at the D-III University, Willamette University. Did you ever consider or get recruited, even though it would be illegal, to leave D3 and then go to D1 or D2?
Now you can do that. So you can leave a D3 school and go to D2 or D1, and vice versa. You could leave a D1 and go to a D3. If you are transferring intra division, typically you have to sit out a year Not always. Sometimes you can get a waiver, but I actually was recruited by several D1 schools while I was a D3 runner, and I very seriously considered leaving. One, because I wasn't super happy at Willamette. And two, why wouldn't you want to get your tuition paid for, right? So I could go from paying an exorbitant amount to Willamette to not having to pay anything at school X, Y, and Z. The reason I didn't is that not all my credits would have transferred. Like I was a biochemistry major, and if I went to another school, because the credits aren't one for one, a lot of times when you transfer, I probably would have had to redshirt and then stay a 5th year. And my big thing is I just wanted out of college as fast as I could get out. I didn't like college. I didn't want to be in college, whether it was a D1 or D3. I just didn't want to be a collegiate athlete anymore than I had to be. So I knew that by sticking it out at Willamette, even though it wasn't the best fit for me, it was the quickest route for me to get out of college.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I did not realize that it wasn't illegal to be recruited from a D1 school while you were still at another school.
It's not illegal. It's just frowned upon, right? Like coaches don't like their talent getting poached, but it does happen.
Right. And let's move on to when you were a professional runner. A lot of people were asking, was there a classic workout that you did as a professional runner that would reveal whether you were either very fit or served as more of a wake-up call?
I think there are many workouts that would do that, but really you're talking about as a middle distance runner, kind of 3 different energy systems, right? You've got like your hardcore base building system, your endurance system, and that's like, okay, what could I do for 5 by a mile, right? 5 by a mile off 2 minutes rest. If I'm averaging sub 5s on that, like I'm getting in pretty good shape, for me. Then you talk about all out speed. If I'm cranking 22, 23 second 200s, that system is firing on all cylinders. I got good speed. And then you combine the two and you talk about speed endurance. That workout, which we would do sometimes to check kind of where we were ready for a race, 3 by 400 off 4 minutes. And that workout is harder than any 800 I ever ran. Like if you can run that workout and crush it, you're ready for a great 8. So yeah, we would test our systems quite frequently, but you got to remember what period you're in, right? So in November, December, I need to be able to run 5 by a mile really well, but running 3 by 400 is absolutely irrelevant that time of year because I'm not racing for another 4 or 5 months. Similarly, I may be able to run fantastic 200s right the week before the Olympic Games, but I would probably struggle in a 5 by a mile interval set because I haven't done that in like 4 or 5 months. So we periodized our training so much so that we were building base for 6-7 months out of the year. Then we were sharpening a little bit, and then we were combining it all together into speed endurance and crushing workouts. So did you check out my 2012 training log?
I think I have checked that out, and I believe I've also seen the video. I think it was titled like the most important running video you'll ever see, and it was about
sharpening. Yeah, it's about periodization.
Yeah.
And it is. If you don't understand periodization, if a young runner does not understand periodization, when their coach doesn't understand it, there's no way they will ever reach peak performance. Periodization is arguably the most important part of training. In my opinion, it is the most important part of training because all of it doesn't matter what the workouts are if they're not done in the right order.
So speaking of being at your peak performance, what are your thoughts, like when you were a professional runner, on racing in the early season when maybe you weren't super fit? And even like this year, especially, it's showing that there are a lot of runners who seem to only want to race when they're at their peak.
It's a mistake. It's an absolute mistake. I think there's a lot of athletes that don't want to show their weaknesses, or maybe they don't want to be embarrassed with a bad first race. You got to get over that. There's no way to simulate racing other than racing. And those first few races oftentimes don't go as planned, and you have to just get past it, brush the rust off, use them for what they are, which are rust busters, and just be better from it. Sometimes racing is training, and especially in March and April, early season races, you need to get those under your belt in order to prime your system for subsequent racing. So I really am disappointed with athletes when they avoid races early season just because they're embarrassed that they're not in better shape.
And speaking of racing and pre-race anxiety. So you said that you were more nervous for like a high school track meet than for the Olympic finals.
Absolutely.
Uh, how did you improve your pre-race anxiety as a runner? And then what tips do you have to overcome race anxiety?
I think the big one is to stop viewing race anxiety as a negative and to start viewing it as a positive. And by that I mean the anxiety that you're feeling, the butterflies in your stomach, all of that, that's adrenaline, and you need adrenaline. Like what allows athletes to have great performances is that adrenaline, right? Allows you to do superhuman things. So stop worrying about the pre-race anxiety and fretting about it and start saying, I can't wait to feel what I feel right now, but only an hour before the race, right? So teach yourself that it's okay to feel those feelings, that you want to feel those feelings, but you have to channel your thoughts away from that so as not to waste that adrenaline, right? If you're a week out from a race and all you're doing is think about the race, you are just wasting energy. You're wasting adrenaline, you're wasting energy, and you need to be able to channel your mind towards studies, being with your family, being with your friends, reading a book. You have to distract yourself so that when the day of the race comes and you're out warming up and you start feeling that pre-race nervous energy, you can smile and say, all right, here we go. That's the adrenaline. I need to go out and kick some butt. But you have to harness it for good rather than let it, spiral you down into a hole.
And moving on to the actual race, championship races, especially in the middle distance events at the professional level, like the US Championships or the Olympics, they always seem to start slow and turn into a kicker's race. Why does it seem that everybody races like they have the best kick in the field when in reality only a couple runners do?
Well, a disproportionate amount of runners really do believe they have the best kick. And they don't, and so they get caught up in that I can outkick everybody, and you're not going to outkick a Leo Manzano, you're not going to outkick a Nick Symmonds off a slow pace. I spent that I was really bad at a lot of things, but changing gears mid race and kicking, that was my forte. I wish we'd had more races like that, specifically because it played into my advantages. But you also have this kind of idea that leading wire to wire is hard, right? Like going out front and running, no matter what the pace is, leading wire to wire is very hard. And you feel the people on your shoulders just leeching off you, letting you do the extra 10% of the work that is leading, So I think probably more often than not in those tactical affairs, half the field is in over their head and they need to just get going. But if there's a guy like me, I would want in any race that I wanted to win, the slower the first half of the race was, the better. And honestly, don't even wind it up. Like literally just go from jogging to all out sprinting, because I can change gears faster than anybody. But I proved it, right? I proved it on the track. The athletes that can't change their gears that fast, that can't accelerate, they're in for a world of hurt when those races unfold that way.
So another thing on racing tactics, what were some of the dirtiest tactics that you experienced in professional races, which the average viewer at home may not realize were taking place?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it was all pretty clean. You get a lot of elbows. Like I always see people protesting when they get an elbow, and I'm like, welcome to middle distance racing. I never once in 20 years of racing ever lodged a complaint or a protest against another athlete for bumping me. That's just racing, and if you're not comfortable with that, then go find another sport. But when you see athletes working together, and especially at the global level in championship settings, where you'll see 2 or 3 Kenyans clearly working together, and one being the sacrificial lamb that is the pacemaker for his compatriots. There's nothing illegal about it, but you do kind of get this sense of, all right, guys, like, are we really racing, or are we setting up a time trial for your buddy? So I'm still kind of the mindset, like, if it's not illegal in the rules, then it's fair play. But I would always kind of, in my mind, think this is a tactic that's being used, and I need to recognize that.
And yeah, the part about the elbows, that's like when people say track is not a contact sport, I mean, it absolutely is.
in middle distance running, especially, I think sprinting, it's not, and obviously in the longer distances, it's not. But if you're talking 800 and 1500 meter running, just plan on there being an elbow or two at some point in that race.
And a little while ago, you mentioned the rules, and I know you were a big activist both for track athletes and for other causes like the LGBT community and PETA. Um, but could you talk about your activist role, and is USATF in a better spot now than when you were a runner, or has it not changed at all?
Yeah, boy, that's a great question. I think I wouldn't even call myself an activist. I would just say when something bothered me, I'd speak out. And because I was ranked number 2 in the world or wherever I was at, people would pay attention. So I'm like, this is crazy. Like I say something in an interview and then everybody runs with it, and like I told you before this interview, I say nothing's off limits. You can ask me anything. This is in a mixed zone where everybody says no comment, no comment, no comment. And they go, oh, here comes Symmonds. He'll have a comment for us. So I was the only one giving them a soundbite or a quote that they could use for their story. And so I just kind of became that guy that, like, you can ask me anything and I have an opinion. I'm happy to tell you what it is. And I don't mind getting, the blowback for it. So again, I wouldn't have called myself an activist. I would have just called myself somebody that's not afraid to share his opinion on anything. And, with regards to USATF, I think they did a lot of posturing to try to make people think that they were making good changes. But everything that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years tells me that they're the same old broken USATF that just robs the athletes blind. That's what I have seen in the last few years. And it's been the same way for 20 years that I've been following the sport.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that that's the case and that it's so hard for athletes to make money off of, like, for example, you wanted to have the temporary tattoo when you were racing, and it's unfortunate that runners can't do that.
Well, the way I describe it is USATF and IOC and IAAF have confiscated all of the advertising space, and they own all of it, basically, including your skin, which is just wrong.
So you are 37 years old, and do you have any thoughts about dusting off the racing spikes in 3 years to compete as a masters runner?
Absolutely not. No, I love seeing people out there that are masters runners, and I was inspired by them a lot when I was younger. People keep asking me, like, why don't I set new running goals? Well, I did that, right? I set running goals for 20 years. And I think as much as I still love running, I don't need to set running goals anymore. I'm more excited setting goals in the gym or setting goals with my business. And I am a very goal-driven person, but setting running goals doesn't fire me up the way it used to. So the idea of going out as a masters athlete and chasing masters times, it's more like okay, well, how much can I prevent myself from slowing down? Whereas I can go into the gym, and because I'm such a novice in the gym, week after week, I can have a new PR and a new PR, and it's untouched territory. And I get way more excited about a PR in the gym than I would get about a PR running, because those are, there's no way to compete with the 142.9 in the 800 or 356 in the mile. I can never be that athlete again, but I can still be the best I've ever been in the gym, even at my age of 37.
That makes a lot of sense. And a couple more questions about running, but less about running. And the first is, where was the coolest place you were able to visit while being a professional runner? I know you traveled all around the world, and so I'd love to hear your opinion.
I think I raced on 4 continents and 30 some countries. So I did see a lot of the world. For some reason, Australia just jumps to mind. Like, I spent 2 winters down there, and it was just so much fun. I don't know if I'd ever have gone to Australia, except that I was going down there to race, and I spent about a month on each trip. So I got to see a lot of the country. So yeah, Australia comes to mind as just one of the really coolest places I visited.
How often do you put on the 2013 World Championships silver medal and just walk around the house with it?
Absolutely never. I for a while was just in the bottom of my sock drawer, and I never even thought about it. I think my wife keeps it in our family safe now. But if you guys follow me, you know I'm very much forward thinking. I'm always like, what's the next goal? What's the next project? Where are we going next week? Where are we going next hour? I very, very rarely dwell in the past. The only time I do that is when I'm making YouTube videos or Instagram posts, because I like to tell the lessons that I learned from my past to help other people avoid some of my mistakes that I made, or learn, from the lessons that I was able to pick up. But in my day-to-day life, I must ask myself this. I bet you I ask myself this question 100 times a day. What's next? What's next? What's next? I have a to-do list this long every day, and I cross something off. I go, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? In some ways, it's rough on those people around me because I'm very bad at living in the moment. I never dwell in the past. Like I said, I'm just constantly, what's next? And that's for better or for worse. That's just the way my brain works.
And if you look at your Wikipedia page, readers will see that you are the Brad Pitt of running. How did this
Don't
come to
believe
be?
everything you read. Yeah.
How did this come to be? Did you edit that entry, or was it Tiana?
So I have never edited anything on my Wikipedia page. I don't think Tiana has either, but I did have a publicist back in 2012, and he dubbed me the Brad Pitt of track and field, and the media ran with it. So it stuck, I guess.
So moving on to YouTube, you started your YouTube channel back when you were retiring from the sport of running, but what made you want to start a YouTube channel, and what really inspired you to do that?
Well, I would say the number one inspiration was my COO, Nathan Woods, who was like, we all recognized that I was getting a lot of earned media running around, and my brand Rungum, it was getting a lot of exposure because of what I was doing on the track. And I knew if I was retiring from track and field, I needed to find another way to promote my brand and my product. And so YouTube was going to be that for me, but I didn't understand the platform. And we made, some vlogs, and then we made some silly videos, and then I kind of gave up on it for 6 months. And it wasn't until spring 2019 that we really found our pace and what we wanted it to be. And we've gone from, I think spring 2019, I had about 15,000 subscribers to, I think I checked, we have about 340,000 subscribers now.
So walk us through your process for creating content, and do you script your videos?
So I script the concept, meaning I want to shoot, well, actually I'm looking at my whiteboard right here, and I have about 100 different ideas. Like I have one that says middle school track meet. I've always wanted to set up a middle school track meet, like go to a local middle school and run a track meet with them and see how I compete with a bunch of middle schoolers. Now, obviously we haven't been able to do that because of COVID, but that's how I would script it. I would say, okay, I know a buddy who coaches middle school. I'll call him up. I'll say, dude, can we do this? He'll set a date, and then Ryan, my videographer, and I will go, and we'll just see how it unfolds. Like it's not really scripted other than we're going to run 5 events and see how I do. But the concept is scripted in that we know what the video is going to be focused on. Some creators like Danny Duncan and I are good friends, and he doesn't script anything in his video. He literally just goofs around and has his buddy follow him, and they make that video, and it works really, really well for them. But it's literally not like we have to schedule something for this day. It's what are we going to do today that would be entertaining? And I think that works really well for his channel. Given the fact that I have to schedule my shoots between all my other obligations with Rungum and my other businesses, I'm not able to just kind of like randomly film. I have to set 2 hours aside to go film.
So many of the video, like you've had a couple videos, not many, but a few videos that you've posted have been calling out the haters. And I think one of the first videos I watched of yours was when you were still a professional runner, retiring, and it was titled like "Haters Gonna Hate, Haters Gonna Hate, Ain'ters Gonna Hate."
Yeah.
And you're calling out the haters. So what motivates you more, your fans or the haters?
That's a great question. I would say as a pro athlete, the haters motivated me more. Like to work that hard and to just see people still like hate on what you're doing, I just didn't understand it. And to be fair, I had a lot more haters back then. I don't have a lot of haters right now. One, I block people like crazy on Instagram because it's very easy to do. But 2, I decided that the person that I want to be online is relentingly positive. You will, I mean, maybe if you go back far enough, you'll see some negativity. But in my new life, I'm just so happy. I love my business. I love my wife. I love where I live. I love my job. I love my dog. I'm just so happy with where I'm at in life. And I think that comes out in my videos. I just want to be positive. And no matter how negative people get, if there are haters, I want to kill them with kindness and kill them with positivity, because happy, positive people aren't the trolls, right? The people that are hating, the people that are trolling me, there's something wrong with their life. And I don't want to make them feel bad. I want them to feel like I feel. I want them to feel super excited and happy about life the way I feel. So like trying to tear them down isn't going to achieve my end goal, which is ultimately helping people.
And from what you just said, it sounds like you've made it from what it sounds like. But at what point did you realize that you made it with YouTube, and that if you wanted to, this could probably be your only career?
Yeah, I would say I've made it personally in the sense that I'm extremely happy as an individual. And I think that happiness, and so I know there will be a lot of people that disagree with me, but living a happy life is the goal, right? I don't want to be the richest. I don't want to be the most famous. I want to be the happiest person on planet Earth. That's my goal. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job. Like I've eliminated a lot of things that annoy me. One of the reasons I live in Eugene, Oregon and not a big city is I don't like big cities. They annoy me, So there's an example where maybe I'm taking a pay cut or my businesses grow slower because I'm not living in a big city, but I'm so much happier. And that's what I'm chasing is happiness, not chasing, every last dollar or fame or anything. With regards to YouTube, I would say it was limping along until we made one video that changed the channel forever. And it was race me for $100. Beat me in a race, win $100. And we did it on Pre's Trail. And that video has 3 or 4 million views now. But it was the first super viral video we launched. It took my channel from, I think that one video took my channel from like 30,000 subscribers to 75,000 subs in like a month. And when it proved to me that being more entertaining and less like cerebral, just like try to make the most entertaining video possible, was going to be a really good strategy. But also you realize how much money is available in YouTube once you start making viral videos. I think I've gone from making like $500 or $600 a month in ad revenue to just overnight making 10 grand, And I was like, holy cow, there's actually money in this sport, the sport of YouTubing. And so I knew that from a business angle, YouTubing was going to be the most important thing that I was going to do in the next decade, because there are so many ways to monetize a YouTube channel. People talk about TikTok. You can have TikTok. They talk about Snapchat. I'm not on Snapchat. I honestly, other than Instagram, I just don't think there's any better way to make money. I mean, Instagram is a good way to make money too, but Casey Neistat put out a tweet that I think about almost daily. He said, from a purely financial standpoint, I would rather have a YouTube channel that averages 50,000 views per video than an Instagram account with 2 million followers. Purely from a cash flow standpoint, you can monetize a YouTube channel in so many ways that you can't monetize an Instagram following. So I'm a YouTuber who has an Instagram, and I like Instagram. It's how we communicate. But by far, from a financial standpoint, if you're going to put your time and energy into a platform, there is literally no better way or easier way to make money as a content creator than YouTubing, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Like YouTube, you can have brand deals just like on Instagram, but then you also have the ads and make ad revenue from that,
and sell your own products, and shout out Cameo and shout out all these other little plugins that help you make money. I mean, in any given YouTube video, between the cards, the description, pinned comments, mentions, I will have 15 to 20 different links that you can go to find anything that whether it's entertainment or stuff that I'm selling or sponsored posts, whatever it is. YouTube video, you have the real estate to put 20 different links in. What do you get on Instagram? Link in bio. No one's going to the link in bio. And tell me, because I'm not on TikTok, can you even drive traffic with TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok because
Good. Keep making
I
YouTube
hate,
videos.
yeah, I hate TikTok, and just think that, I mean, I've seen people watching TikTok at school and stuff, and it's just like swiping every
Endlessly
couple
swiping.
seconds.
So like, yeah, you got, let's say a video went viral and you got, 2 million views on it. What were you able to accomplish with that? Like, did you sell anything? Like, did you drive traffic anywhere? And so just people swiping and being, mindlessly and entertained isn't the same relationship that you're creating with someone via YouTube. And you know this because you are a YouTuber, but that audience, that community you're building, you can't do that in any other platform except maybe Instagram. But they're still not, I still would say they're not as entertained and as loyal and potentially as monetizable as a community that you build on YouTube.
And I'm sure somebody can enlighten us in the comments by saying
tell me about that TikTok.
how TikTok can actually make money.
I'm sure it's possible. And most of the TikTokers I know that ended up making a lot of money did so by taking their massive following and migrating them over to Instagram and YouTube, where they really actually make the money.
So moving on, you've done a lot of stupid things for content.
Yeah, thanks very much. I take that as a huge compliment.
It definitely is, of course. But what was the most painful video you made?
No question about it. The Big Mac mile was the worst idea I've ever had for a video. You eat a Big Mac, you run a lap, you do it 4 times. So you eat 4 Big Macs and run 4 laps. It's the Big Mac mile, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. My stomach was like in knots for days.
And I think when you start the video off by saying, "Oh, Ryan,
this is a terrible idea
the videographer, this is a terrible idea for a video." I mean, I think that's when you know it's going to be a good video.
That's going to be a good video, yeah. And I don't say it in all my videos, but at least half a dozen times now, I've said, "Oh, this is a terrible idea for a video," and I'm gonna make shirts with that, some merch with that tagline one of these days.
Was there a video that you expect, or videos that you expected to do really well and then it just flopped?
Yeah, and then there's, on the flip side, there's videos that I'm like, this isn't going to go anywhere, and they've done fantastic. So you can't try to learn the algorithm. You can't predict what's going to work and what's going to not work. What you can do is commit to a content calendar and just try to make the best dang video you possibly can each time you have a deliverable due. So I say, I'm going to make 1 YouTube video every single week, and I'm going to try to make it the best possible video that I can. And sometimes they're going to run and sometimes they're not. Most of them kind of do average. But that consistency and that commitment to trying to have the best video possible, it gives your channel the best chance that at least some of those videos are going to run. But yeah, I mean, we dropped one, usually my race me videos, beat me in a race, win $100 videos. I think almost every one of them have gone to 1 million plus. And then we did one in Florida that flopped majorly. Like, it only got like 60,000 views, which I think it's like the worst performing video I've had in a year or two. So we were just shaking our heads. We're like, I don't know why that one didn't go. Maybe the ideas played out, or something about that video just didn't resonate. But you just kind of throw your hands up and say, all right, we got another week. Let's get ready for next week's video. And sometimes something will flop in the short term and it'll just kind of like peter out. And then, 6-7 months later, it'll just go for a run and just get hundreds of thousands of views. And you're like, what made that video go? I have no idea. Just, you can't worry about views in the short term. You have to worry about content calendar and making the best content possible.
Yeah, I've definitely had that. I mean, definitely scaled down a lot more than just going up 100,000 views. But I've had the videos where it starts out slow and then like a couple months later, it increases by like 300 or 400 views, and I don't understand why that would happen.
Don't question it. Just be grateful that the YouTube gods smiled upon you. And again, just know that when you make a video, we all focus on it like crazy the first couple days, right? Like, oh gosh, it's not going anywhere. It's not doing as well as I wanted it to. That video lives on a YouTube server forever. So, even if it's not great now, like sometimes I'll go back and look at a Mr. Beast video from 5 years ago, and it's a horrible, horrible video. And at the time, it probably only got a couple thousand views. But now, because he's Mr. Beast, that video has 20 million views, right? So you don't even know this video right now, you may launch it and it gets a few thousand views, but because you're, the biggest thing in YouTube 10 years from now, maybe this thing goes for a little ride. I don't know. Just keep making content and be consistent about it.
So I think I commented this a couple months ago, but will we ever get to see a bison versus a bison race?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been getting a lot of people asking for that one. And I think that comment that you mentioned about, like, it was like the highest upvoted comment. So I would have to find a private landowner that owns a herd that would let me do this, because I can't imagine anybody in the public park service in West Yellowstone allowing me to do it. So if anybody out there owns a farm with some bison on it, let's rumble. I'm ready to race.
Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting video.
Well, I think they weigh like a ton, or 2 tons. So I don't want to get stomped by one.
Yeah. Something that is special about you as a creator is that you say that you will answer every single DM on Instagram, or at least you used to say that.
I used to say it got to the point where I couldn't keep up.
But how are you able to answer almost every DM on Instagram?
When I was a much smaller creator, I would get about 20 to 30 DMs a day. And so I would just carve out half an hour to an hour each day to respond to DMs. Now I'm getting a couple hundred DMs a day. There's no way for me to keep up, but that was really fun for me. And I miss those days when I was able to really give somebody, and I used to do voice notes a lot. So I'd like, hey, what's up? It's Nick here. And I thought those were really fun for people to open, but I feel bad that I can't keep up with the DMs anymore.
And what's the most memorable DM you have received when, upon reading it, you were thinking, did somebody seriously just ask this?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'm trying to think back. Some weird ones back in the day. And when I was single, I would get some interesting ones from people. But yeah, no, now it's almost always, because I think I've pivoted my content towards really trying to help people out, especially my Ask Nick series on Nick Symmonds 2 channel, and just everything that I do on Instagram. It's trying to be very informative and helpful. 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20 DMs are like how people asking me how they can be better runners, and I'm hesitant to give someone directly advice because I don't know what they're like as a runner. I don't see them at practice. I don't know what their background is. So it's really hard to offer specific advice on an athlete you don't know much about. Whereas I can offer general advice really easily, like, hey, shoes matter. If you're trying to run in basketball shoes, that's not the best pair of shoes for you. I can say that no matter who the athlete is.
Go to Running Warehouse and get your shoes.
There you go.
What is an overrated or your least favorite part about being an influencer / content creator?
That's a really good question. I like most of it. One of the things that I think a lot of people dislike are the brand deals. They find it super annoying and they hate reading the contracts and they feel like they're working for somebody. I love the brand deals. I've been doing this since before Instagram even existed. Like I've read it through hundreds of brand deals. I don't hire a lawyer to read any of them because I've just read so many. I can do it myself. I like that aspect. An aspect I don't like, I would say it's a self-inflicted wound, but as a content creator, I'm constantly comparing myself with other content creators. And so when I go online and I see somebody doing something really well, like Instagrammers especially, because I'm not a very good Instagrammer, but if I see an Instagrammer that has like 500,000 followers, I get really jealous. I'm like, man, I need to figure out Instagram. I'm just so bad at Instagram. Like, I don't know how to grow that very well. Or like I mentioned it before, Mr. Beast. And I'm like, Mr. Beast just dropped a video that got 10 million views in the first hour. And I've never got a single video over 10 million views. Like, it's hard not to compare yourself with other people in your space. So I would say that my least favorite part is that I'm constantly comparing myself with others. But that's not their fault. It's not the fault of the platform. That's myself being a very competitive person and I need to be maybe a little bit more healthy in the way that I approach my comparisons. Like, be inspired by what Mr. Beast does rather than feel a sense of jealousy that he's so far ahead of me.
And I think that's something that people should apply to running as well. It's
Absolutely.
very easy to compare yourself with running. And you mentioned brand deals. Is there a reason why you don't get the traditional brand deals like Audible or Skillshare, or is it just that you want
Yeah,
to
I don't know.
only? Is it just that
I
you only want to have the brand deals that like you would use?
So when a brand approaches me, I kind of put them through like a few questions in my mind. Like, number one, uh, have I heard of the brand? Right? Like, Bose came to me. That's a pretty easy one to say yes to because it's Bose, right? They have awesome products and everybody knows them. Like, that's a brand deal that builds my brand up and legitimizes what I'm doing along with promoting their products. So that's an easy one. I've been a Gymshark athlete for over a year. That's an endemic brand. That's something that where I love the product, but I think my audience is going to love the product. It's not hard to pitch a product to the audience when you're like, they're going to like this. Like, if I was trying to pitch, what's something that kids would hate? Like, if I was trying to pitch broccoli, like, that's not going to resonate, right? But if I'm pitching cool stuff, it's not hard, and I know it's going to be entertaining still the way that I pitched it. So does it match my audience? Does it add brand value to what I'm doing? And then certainly the question is like, okay, well, how hard am I going to have to work? What are the deliverables the brand wants? And then finally, based on those three things, like, how much is the compensation? So I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not the influencer that says no to everything. I say no to 95% of the deals that come my way. But if they check all the boxes and they hit market rate, then yeah, why wouldn't I endorse that product? I like the product. I think my audience is going to like it. The workload is compensated by the financial compensation. Boom, let's do the deal. And so, yeah, you'll see me probably more aggressively on, well, I don't know. I used to have 0 brand deals on YouTube and it was all Instagram. And now it's almost all YouTube brand deals. And I don't do a lot of Instagram. But it just has to be, it has to fit multiple criteria. And there are some companies where I'll do the brand deal for pretty much free. Like, this whiskey company reached out to me and I love whiskey. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that for pennies on the dollar because I want to try your whiskey. Then there'll be some companies where I'm like, I'm not a big tech guy. So if you see me promoting tech, there's a good chance that contract's paying really well, because tech doesn't get me excited. I'm a low tech guy. So for tech to get me to like get excited enough to make the content for it, it's probably a high paying contract.
So I remember seeing this tweet from another running YouTuber, Seth Demore,
Yeah.
who he tweeted something saying that he received an email from a brand who wanted him to have a brand deal, a sponsorship, promote one of their products, and the product was like some cat feeder
Fine.
thing.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the weirdest brand sponsorship or brand deal that they wanted to sponsor you?
Wow. That's a really good question. I probably won't sound that weird to your audience, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. I get bombarded with requests for video games. Like, all of these video game people want me to advertise their video games. I don't game. Like, I don't play video games. I never have. So it's just, to me, I'm like, there are a billion video game influencers out there. Go talk to them. I'm not that guy, So I don't know that you'll ever see me promoting a video game, even if the money was there, because I just don't game. I wouldn't even know how to do the integration.
Yeah, I've seen the Raid Shadow Legends is a very common one that
they got money to
sponsor
blow,
everybody.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, your wife Tiana has been in a few videos. How did you meet your wife, and what does she think of your YouTube fame?
I met her in a coffee shop when I was running professionally. I met her in a coffee shop in Seattle. and she didn't know who I was. And so I think afterwards she kind of went and did her homework, and she's like, "Are you this guy?" And not that I was really famous, but I mean, if you were to Google me back then, it would have been like Nick Symmonds, 2-time Olympian. So she kind of knew what she was getting herself into. I don't think she expected that I would become a YouTuber. And I think if you asked her now, she would say YouTube is, for her, I think she's excited about how excited I am about it, but I think she also finds it super annoying because I'm so obsessed with it. I'm always watching YouTube videos. I'm always on my own YouTube channel, like commenting with people. It gets a lot of my attention, right? And I think any wife who has a husband that's obsessed with something online like that would find it somewhat annoying. But she's been a good sport. She's appeared in a few of the videos. She doesn't love to be on camera, so I don't force her to too often. But I think she likes how passionate I am about it. I don't understand why she loves Louis Vuitton purses so much. It does not make sense to me, but I'm excited that she's excited about it.
But that's awesome that you have someone who, even though she doesn't understand it, she's still very supportive. And
yeah, she is.
I think that's what everybody needs. So how often are you recognized in public when you are not filming a video? And where is the most remote or strangest place that somebody recognized you when you were least expecting it?
I feel like I got that perfect level of fame right now where if I want to stroke my ego, I can go to a track meet and everybody kind of recognizes me, and I'm signing autographs and taking pictures, and it feels good that people recognize me and are excited about what I've been creating. But I can also walk down the street and nobody knows me, right? Like if I'm not wearing my rungum hat and I'm just looking like an average Joe walking down the street, nobody's bothering me, and I like that. But there are cases where, like, if I walk through an airport, invariably someone will say, "Hey, I love your videos," or "Hey, Nick, I used to watch you race," especially if I'm traveling through a major airport like Chicago or Denver or San Francisco. But it's not like it starts a crowd or anything. It's like one person who's been a fan for a while. The craziest places that I've been recognized, when my wife and I go on trips, we like to travel a lot, and it's so crazy. Like, wherever we go, someone will recognize me. Like we were in Iceland having dinner in the middle of Reykjavik at this tiny little place, and someone's like, "Hey, are you Nick Symmonds?" And we're like, "What in the world?" Like, of all the places to be recognized. So I think you got to combine the fact that I am 37. I had a long career as a runner. So some people just like, especially older people, they only know me from my running days. And then there's a younger demographic that watches me on YouTube. And a lot of them don't even know that I was a pro runner. They just aren't you got the guy that races around in a turtle costume? So whether you recognize me for my pro running days or for my YouTubing days, just say hi. I never ever get offended when people come up and say hi and ask for a picture and autograph. So if you see me on the street, come say hi.
So moving on to rungum, do you want to give a 15-second pitch for rungum?
Always, man. I'll always pitch rungum. So I created this company with my coach. It's like an energy drink, but in gum form. Nobody wants to drink a 16-ounce monster right before they run, but you can chew rungum. It's going to give you caffeine, taurine, and B vitamins to amp you up for your workout. Whether you're running or in the gym or anything else, we got you covered. And now we have kind of transitioned from an energy company to what I would call a wellness company. Rungum has an immunity product. We have a calming product. We're going to have a recovery product coming out pretty soon. So we kind of tick all the boxes, like whatever you need to be feeling, we're a gum with benefits for you.
My mom claims she had the idea of caffeinated gum about 20 years ago. But of course, an entrepreneur has to not only have the idea, but the motivation to see it through. How did the original idea for rungum start? The actual idea is so logical, and it's surprising that there aren't really too many competitors for you.
So my vision for it first came from, when I was an Olympian, I had all these energy drink companies sending me their product, and I actually fell in love with one of them. And so I liked the way it made me feel from an energy. So, I in one breath, I said that it's easy to manufacture, and it is compared to some other things. But manufacturing gum with vitamins and minerals and stimulants, it's not easy to do. So there's a barrier to entry there. And as your mom's found out, like having an idea, that's just like 5 to 10% of the bringing it to the market, right? You ultimately have to have the capital to do it. You have to have the business plan. You have to have the business acumen to bring a product to market and then scale it. I would say that rungum is a good idea, but we executed very well when we were launching it.
I'm very intrigued about your lifestyle because you are an entrepreneur, not following the typical 9 to 5 work schedule. So I think it'd be really interesting to hear an average day. So could you just walk us through a typical day for you from the time you wake up?
I'll start out by saying my typical day is just bouncing around from thing I want to do to thing that I want to do to thing that I want to do, and avoiding at all costs anything that I don't want to do. So by that I mean I keep my days pretty much unstructured. Like I don't have an hour where I have to do this and then an hour where I have to do that. I know that I have a lot of stuff I have to get done, but if I look at my to-do list, in the mornings, like creating content, for example, I hate creating content in the afternoon. I'm too tired. I don't want to even think about it, but I love creating content in the mornings. So as I'm looking through my to-do list, I know I need to like do that in the mornings. But my day starts about 5 a.m. I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, kind of stretch out a little bit. Usually in the winter months, I'll sit in the hot tub for 10 to 20 minutes to get nice and warm. And then I'll go to a CrossFit class. I really like CrossFit for just general fitness. And so I'll do that from about 6:30 to 7:30, come home, shower, eat a breakfast, like say hi to Tiana, say hi to the puppy. And then I try to get to work by, somewhere between 8 and 9. And then morning often is content creation, emails. Afternoon, it's, working around rungum, talking to the employees, editing sometimes, responding to comments. And then in the afternoons, I like to either do a strength piece, rungum, and I'll lift weights in the afternoon, or I'll go for a short jog or something like that. Home by 5:30. We usually run or walk the dog, and then eat dinner and go to bed. My wife and I are super boring. We go to bed about 7:30 or 8 every night.
Are you allowed to drink coffee? Do you ever drink coffee, or do you
exclusively
eat rungum?
No, I think coffee for me, like right when I wake up, I really want a cup of coffee. And I think it serves multiple purposes. Like one, there's antioxidants in it. I think that's good for you. Filtered coffee has been shown to be very good for you. It helps me go to the bathroom, which is nice. It wakes me up. So it's my ritual. I like to have 1 cup of coffee and an 8-ounce cup of coffee when I first wake up. But I don't drink coffee throughout the day. I've never really understood that. That sounds gross to me. So, throughout the day, as I need energy, I'm going with rungum.
I remember seeing a couple interviews with you after a race just from the press. And did the press ever get upset at you for plugging rungum during interviews?
I wouldn't say they got upset. They kind of rolled their eyes. And I'm like, you want me to feed you with quotes and information and entertainment? Well, there's a price to pay for that. You're going to let me plug my company. And that's the symbiotic relationship that every entrepreneur needs to have with the media. Like I will give you unlimited time and quotes and energy and whatever you need to make your story the best story you need it to be. But understand that comes at a small price, which is I'm going to plug my company. And I think a good entrepreneur should always be plugging their company. So I got my hat on.
So something that I think most people are interested in would be your income breakdown between YouTube, rungum, and then brand deals. You don't need to give specific numbers, but
just percentages.
I think people would just be interested in hearing the percentages.
Let's see, today or like historically?
Probably just today and like in general.
So we're about, when I think about revenue, no matter what scenario, whether I'm thinking about Nick Symmonds LLC, which manages all my internet assets, or rungum, I always think quarterly, right? So a year is broken up into 4 quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We're just about to finish Q1 of 2021. And at the end of that, I'll look at my revenue breakdown. And I actually should have these numbers pretty close to being right. So 20% this will be really rough. 20% is my run gum salary. 40%, 20% is my run gum salary. 30% is my YouTube ad revenue, and 50% is brand deals. That's pretty close.
I think that's pretty interesting, and that's kind of crazy that the brand deals would make you more money than run gum. But I assume you probably are taking less of a salary and putting more back into the company.
Exactly. You're a young entrepreneur thinking like that. I could take more money out of the company, but why would I want to do that when I could reinvest it and make the company bigger?
So back to run gum. Where is run gum manufactured? Is it manufactured here in the US, or do you outsource it?
We manufacture everything in Portland. So it's manufactured in Portland, and then in some cases from our manufacturer, it goes straight to Walmart or Target or Amazon. In most cases, it comes down I-5 to Eugene or Springfield, where we have our warehouse, and then we distribute it from our warehouse. So if you go to rungum.com right now and buy run gum, I got somebody downstairs that'll pack that shipment for you, and it'll be on your doorstep in 48 hours.
I respect that a lot. I mean, most companies nowadays would just outsource it to China or something like that. But the FDA classifies caffeine as a supplement, and the amount of caffeine in run gum is pretty small compared to many energy drinks that have extremely high doses of caffeine. Should there be more regulation of the amount of caffeine allowed in energy drinks, or the age at which consumers are allowed to buy these products?
That's a good question. I'm not a big fan of regulation. I'm a big fan of individual responsibilities. I think there needs to be more money allocated towards education about what caffeine is, who should be using caffeine, what a healthy dose is. People say, well, how much caffeine does run gum have? And I say it has 50 milligrams per piece. And they're like, I don't know what a milligram is. I don't know what that means. So you'll notice that, on the back of a run gum package, we show that one piece is about equivalent to a cup of coffee, or 2 pieces is about equivalent to an energy drink. So we try to help you, the consumer, know exactly what you're getting. You mentioned that run gum has slightly less caffeine than, say, some of like the massive energy drinks. But you got to remember, you're absorbing that caffeine all at once, right? Through sublingual absorption. There's no wasted time, or, when you drink something, it's going to go into your bloodstream, and it's immediately going to go from your stomach to your liver. And your liver is going to start scrubbing out anything foreign. That includes alcohol. That includes caffeine. So before it's even made it to your brain, it's already gone through, a cleansing process, the liver. Whereas when you chew run gum, it goes sublingually, basically straight to your brain. So 50 milligrams in coffee, I would say, is not the same experience as 50 milligrams of run gum. But yeah, everybody needs to be doing their research on how much caffeine's right for them. I would say one thing that's nice about run gum also is that every piece of run gum is 50 milligrams plus or minus like 1 or 2 milligrams. It's very, very consistent. Whereas a cup of coffee can vary by as much as 100 milligrams.
So I was just going to ask you, and you answered my next question, which is going to be, what would the advantages be for chewing run gum over, say, just taking like a caffeine tablet? And it sounds like if you just take the tablet, it would take a lot longer to get to your brain.
Also consider that a caffeine tablet is just caffeine, whereas run gum has an energy blend consisting of caffeine, taurine, B vitamins. I think that those are important, when we start talking about the full energy process, full energy blend.
What do you see as the future for run gum? I assume you've probably been approached by some larger companies to sell your company, and what would it take for you to sell?
Yeah, so you're talking about exit by acquisition in that case, and we have been approached by a few companies. I guess when I get to a point where I don't see what I would call low-hanging fruit, like really easy ways to grow the business. Like we have half a dozen products that we want to create. Like that's low-hanging fruit. I know that's going to grow the business. Or, we are going nationwide at Walmart point of sale next month, like right at the register. That's low-hanging fruit. If that goes well, like the sky's the limit. Once I feel like we've kind of like picked all the low-hanging fruit, then it's time to let one of these big companies like, Wrigley's or somebody really scale the business. But right now, we're still a pretty young company. We still have a lot of, blue sky opportunities that I personally want to be a part of.
What would you be doing if it weren't for YouTube and rungum?
I'd be a very, very sad person. Like I like to think that I would have always found entrepreneurial business, that's just who I am. But, I think a lot of times, even though somebody's an entrepreneur at heart, they go down a life's path where they have obligations. I'm 37 and I don't have any children. Now imagine if I'd had children at 25, would I have ultimately had the freedom and time and energy to go pursue some of these wild ideas like rungum or YouTubing? I don't know. I may have had to get a job to try to put food on the table. So I feel very fortunate that I've had the time and energy and freedom to really explore who I am as a person, what makes me happy, and how I want to make a living for the rest of my life. I know that for the rest of my life, want to be an entrepreneur, and that being a content creator is going to be a very important part of being an entrepreneur.
So just a few more questions about rungum, and then a couple more questions after that, and then we'll be close to the end of this interview. Would you recommend using rungum on a date, and how many pieces would be optimal for peak performance?
So that's a good question. Well, who am I talking to? Am I talking to somebody who's 25 years old and can drink alcohol? Because I remember when I was dating, I would have a drink or two at dinner, and I think that helps people loosen up a little bit. But then after dinner, I was super sleepy, and maybe we're going out to watch a movie, or we're going to go for a walk, or we're going to go do something after dinner. That's a great opportunity to chew a little rungum and kind of get a little pep to your step back. So I think that's a good way to use it. Caffeine can kind of make people a little bit jittery or a little bit like tweaked out if they use it inappropriately or use it too much. So like if you haven't, I'll say this about any drug, and don't pretend that caffeine or alcohol aren't drugs. They are. Any drug or any foreign substance or any stimulant that you're trying to use, make sure you've used it in practice before you use it in the game, right? So don't try rungum for the first time right before the state championships. Try it in practice and see how it performs. So don't be running around trying rungum before the big date, because you may find yourself like too amped up. You need to be kind of a little cool on that first date, right?
Similarly, did you chew rungum before your wedding?
No, but the wedding was at 11 a.m. So I didn't need it. My wife and I decided we wanted to have a morning wedding.
Last question about rungum. How can people purchase rungum, and how can people try it for free?
If you like purchasing in store, you can go to Walmart or Target and go to the sporting goods section. You'll find it right there. It only costs about $1.88. You can go try it for very little cost. If you like ordering online, Amazon.com or rungum.com will ship it straight to your doorstep. And if you want to try it for free, all you have to do is find me. I literally give people rungum all day, every day for free. All you have to do is find me. I'll give you a free packet or more of rungum. That could be at one of my YouTube events. That could be at a track meet. That could be at Rungum HQ here in Springfield. If you see me and you ask for rungum, you will get free rungum.
So moving on, this is usually I just ask my guest one question about this topic, but it is well known that you like Taco Bell, and you said it in an interview as a pro runner that you ate fairly healthy, but your big weakness was Taco Bell. So what is your favorite item from Taco Bell?
They discontinued it, at least at my local Taco Bell. It was the grilled stuffed burrito. And honestly, it wasn't just my favorite. It was like the only thing I like at Taco Bell. So like I don't even go to Taco Bell anymore because they got rid of the grilled stuffed burrito.
That was one of my brother's favorite items as well, and he's pretty upset that they discontinued
the best.
it.
It was by not even like kind of the best. It was like by far the best thing on the menu.
Do you remember your first Taco Bell experience?
I don't think so. I haven't eaten Taco Bell since I was very young. Not that I'm proud of that, but again, it's my like one cheat meal, like my one weakness.
And then When you would order at Taco Bell, did you go for a Baja Blast or a different drink?
I almost always order water. Like, I know I'm super boring. I don't like soda that much. I don't like sugar. I'm not a big sugar guy, so I'm pretty much just drinking water throughout the day.
That makes sense. That's respectable.
Thanks
Uh,
very much.
and I even saw that they opened a Taco Bell hotel in Palm Springs. So I guess if you're ever
Wow.
in Palm Springs, you got to go to the Taco Bell hotel.
It's a reason to visit right there.
So a couple viewer questions that were asked on Instagram, and then some rapid fire questions. So we'll just start out. What is your opinion on the Let's Run message boards? And what was the funniest thing you ever read about yourself on Let's Run?
I think it's nice that there's a community of runners that are able to talk about all things, not just running related, but it seems they really talk about politics. They talk about news. They talk about running. They talk about cycling. Um, I think it's that anyone posts anonymously. I think you should be required, if you're going to exercise freedom of speech, and I really believe in freedom of speech, but freedom of speech means I, Nick Symmonds, am saying this. So you want to go on some anonymous board and be an anonymous little chick, I got no time for that. You put your name to it, and I have a ton of respect for whatever you say. But anything said anonymously, I have zero respect for. So that's my thought of not just Let's Run, but any message board. Like, put your name behind it. Have some balls. Like, say what you mean what you say, and put your name behind it. I always get called fat on that board, and I actually chuckle at that, because I'm like, well, one, I've never been fat in my life. Two, I was in a, really by society's standpoint, I was a very, very skinny distance runner for the majority of my life. But because I'm not like stick thin marathoner type thin, they've always called me tubby or fat, or say I waddle around the track. And I'm a very self-confident person, so that doesn't really bother me, because I'm like, well, I'm not any of those things. But what if I wasn't? Like, what if I was really sensitive about my body type, or really sensitive, like some people are, about themselves? That could be really damaging, really devastating for some people. So I just, I feel bad, again, going back to, like, I'm really happy where I'm at in life. The people that are trolling others on Let's Run and saying negative things and bringing everybody down, I just feel so bad for them. Like, what is wrong with your life that you feel the need to tear others down rather than lift them up? I will never understand it. But again, I've lived a very blessed life, so I haven't been through some of the things that some people have been through. Maybe they're just really unhappy with their lives.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I just saw on Let's Run a few days ago, somebody somebody calling you fat, and how, oh, you're
Okay.
still in pretty good shape
For a fat guy?
after completing that 200 workout that you posted the other day.
I mean,
Yeah.
I if they want to call me fat, that's fine. I just, like, it's weird. If you said something that was true, like if you called me what's something that would really cut deep? I don't know. My hair's not as thick as it used to be. I still have pretty good hair, but it's like, it's kind of thinned out because I'm 37 years old. Like, if someone said, "Oh, his hair's thinned out," I'd be like, I hate that about myself. And that might cut a little bit. But to say that I'm tubby, like, it doesn't even, like, it's so far from the truth that it just, like water off a duck's back. I'm like, all right, you guys got to come up with something better than that.
So, moving on, would you rather run a marathon on a track, or run 400 hurdles where you jump over 400 individual hurdles
Oh
over the
man,
course of a few laps?
that's a pretty good question. I'm really bad at hurdling, so I just, to avoid the injury, I think I'd be more likely to injure myself doing the hurdles than to actually do the marathon. So I choose the marathon.
And how many pieces of run gum would you chew before that marathon?
Here's the coolest thing about run gum. It's light enough that you can carry it with you when you're running, right? So unlike a 16-ounce energy drink, you're not carrying that while you're running. I would chew a packet of run gum before the event, and I'd carry a packet with me for about mile 20, which is exactly how I used it when I ran the Honolulu Marathon.
When you retired from running, were you able to walk away without any regrets and knowing you had gave it your all?
Unequivocally, yes. Like that, I always worried that I'd leave the sport of running and always want to go back to it. The day I retired, I knew I'd never need to go back because I knew I did everything possible in my running career to run as fast as I could.
So another viewer question is, why the headband?
Well, again, my hair isn't as thick as it used to be, and I sweat a lot. And if you have thick hair like you do, that soaks up the sweat. But at my age, it just drips down in my face from my big old forehead, and I just have all of this sweat in my face, so I wear a headband. But also, beyond the functionality, it's just great marketing. You'll notice I'm not wearing just any headband. It's a Rungum branded headband. So no matter what the shot is, Rungum's in the shot.
I agree, and it's an iconic headband, to say the least. A lot of people may not realize this, but you have participated in a number of the Hood to Coast and Ragnar relay events. And actually, my dad was at the 2010 Hood to Coast race, and I believe he has a photo with you, and you're wearing jorts. But how did you first start doing these relays with the average Joes of the world?
Well, early on, Ragnar had invited me to be part of somebody's team, and that was the team that I ran in the jorts with. That was their costume, and so I had a great time with them. But I've said this at multiple times on social media, but like I don't get excited about running with pro athletes. Like I did that for 12 years. Like I know what they're doing. I'm really happy for them, but I'm not inspired by them. I'm not like enamored by them. I'm like, go run. That's your job. I'm gonna go run with the average Joe. That's who inspires me. I love the hardworking men and women that work a 9 to 5 or are raising families and still find time for their fitness. Because really, that's who I am, right? I'm not the pro athlete. I'm much the life that I live right now is much similar to the person that works a 9 to 5 that's trying to get their workout in before work than I am similar to Donovan Brazier, who's training to be the next Olympic gold medalist. So even though I know what Donovan's doing and I appreciate what he's doing, I'm excited for him. What gets me more excited is the average Joe, because that's really where I'm at in my life right now.
So 2 more questions. The first one, you can go into a little more detail with if you want. If you were reliving the same day over and over again, like in the movie Groundhog Day, what would you do?
Go fishing. I mean, I have days here where I just shake my head. I'm like, I honestly can't think of a better existence. I wake up next to a beautiful woman and my wonderful dog, and I have a cup of coffee, kind of like listening to the birds outside my door because I live in a pretty rural area. I go fishing. I come home. I make dinner for my wife. We watch a movie. It's just like, it's a really nice lifestyle. And again, I go back to kind of the decisions that my wife and I have made. We're constantly trying to eliminate things that bother us. So she used to have a 30-minute commute to work when we lived in Seattle, and she hated it. And I'm like, all right, well, let's get the hell out of Seattle. Let's go somewhere where there isn't any traffic, because I abhor traffic. So we chose Eugene, Oregon, because there's no traffic here ever, and she never has to commute anywhere. So I think we are making decisions every single day to try to make the world that we live in, the environment that we surround ourselves with, the happiest, most positive, most wonderful place that we can. And when we start having kids, that's the same goal. I just keep that going and make it a really wonderful place to raise a family.
So last question, what is next for you? I mean, you have the YouTube channel and Rungum, but what do you think will be next for you in the next couple of years?
Right now, what gets me most excited is YouTube. Like, I love Rungum. It's fun to grow, but it will be acquired. There's no real, like, I don't aspire to own Rungum till the day I die. I aspire for it to be acquired at some point. But I want to make a YouTube channel every week, or make a YouTube video every single week for the rest of my life. Now that may change down the line, but in this moment right now, I think about YouTube like almost every hour. I literally think about YouTube every hour of every single day. So I want to put more time and energy into YouTube and just see where that takes me. I don't know where that ends up, but I just know that in the moment right now, YouTubing is what has my attention.
Well, Nick, you're a legend. Thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. And anything else you want to plug?
No, I mean, I think we hit all the bases there, but I appreciate the time. I think I got to know you. You were on your way to 1,000 subs. And I think you were at like 600 or 700. You cracked 1,000. Where are you sitting at today?
I'm at 1,600.
There we go. So what's your goal this year?
Well, so from the growth that I'm at now, I think 2,000 should be pretty reachable. I'd like to be at least at 2,200, but a stretch goal would be 2,500 or 3K.
Just keep chipping away at it, man. YouTubing is a marathon. It is not a sprint, and it takes it's way, way harder to get to 30,000 subs from zero than it is to get from 30,000 to 300,000. It's exponential. So just building that, that base, that's the big thing. And then from there, you just keep scaling it up. So you're doing the hard work right now. It'll pay dividends later on.
Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. It was a lot of fun to speak with the legend, Nick Symmonds. I am a big fan of his. I tried not to fanboy too much. It was definitely an honor to speak with him. And I hope you enjoyed and hope that you got something out of it as well, whether it was about entrepreneurship or running or YouTube. But that's going to be it for today. I have a couple races coming up, and hopefully I'll have another interview out sometime. But until next time, live life to the max, run to the max. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.